The Ghost in the Wood. After completing their checks on the yard, Sir Topham Hatt decided to rebuild the yard in Barrington. The aluminium works in Pilgodrick was producing more aluminium, and they needed a yard to store the goods trains from the factory and to be picked up by the mainline goods trains. One foggy night, Henry had been asked to take a train of new rails to the yard for the workers to use tomorrow. When he arrived, Henry looked around. The fog and the still dark night made the yard look very spooky. "Peep, peep, peep. I want to go," said Henry. "So do I," replied his driver. So Henry was uncoupled from the train as quickly as his crew and the guard could. Then, just before Henry was about to leave, they heard something from the forest. "Help!" shouted Henry, and he and his crew ran out of the yard. He went straight to timber sheds and told the other engines what happened. "It sounded like a painful scream coming from the trees," Henry explained. "Nonsense," said Gordon. "Must have been an animal." "I've never heard any animal make that sound," said Henry. "James's story is still in your mind. You probably heard something and thought it was a scream." "I know what I heard," argued Henry. "It was the half engine, all right." James was worried. He thought his story was just a local legend. "There's no such thing as ghosts, or the half engine," said Gordon. "Well, I'm not going back there after sundown again," said Henry. "Oh, how ridiculous," said Gordon, and rolled his eyes. The next morning, Henry told the Fat Controller what they heard. "There's no ghosts on my railway, Henry. But if it makes you feel better, you won't be taking building supplies to the yard tonight. You'll be taking the flying kipper tonight." "Gladly," Henry said to himself. "What a silly engine," said Gordon. "Scared of the yard at night? I'm not scared to go there after dark." "Then you will take the building supplies to Balladrin tonight, after you've finished your express duties." Gordon was speechless. "But, sir—" "Really useful engines don't argue." "Yes, sir," said Gordon, wishing he hadn't said anything. That night the fog came down again. Gordon wanted to go straight back to the sheds, but he knew he had to complete the supply train first. Soon he had to stop at a signal. While waiting for it to change, Gordon did notice that the foggy night was making him uneasy. Suddenly, while he was distracted, Henry thundered past with the flying kipper, making Gordon nearly jump off the rails. "Oh, look! James's story has scared Gordon," said a truck, and the others giggled at the big blue engine. "Shut up!" snapped Gordon. "I'm not scared of a silly little story." Soon Gordon arrived at Balladrin Yard and shunted the trucks onto a siding. "Let's go home," asked Gordon. But there was a problem. When the firemen went to change the points back to the main line, they didn't move. "The points are jammed," he said. "They need to be repaired." The driver looked at the points. He said. "Sorry, Gordon, you'll have to stay here until the engineers come back tomorrow." "What? You can't leave me here." "Sorry, boy, the wife's made shepherd's pie for dinner. I'm not missing that." And he and the fireman left. Gordon was furious. Gordon tried to fall asleep, but the night got darker and the fog got thicker. He didn't want to admit it, but he was scared. Henry may have had a point about this place, he thought to himself. But before Gordon could even think of anything else, Gordon was shocked, and he closed his eyes tight. "Help!" He refused to open his eyes until morning. When his crew and the engineers did arrive in the morning, Gordon insisted that he leave the yard as soon as possible. When he finally got back to Knapford, James had already taken the morning express, and Gordon had to do his goods train, but he didn't refuse. Thomas noticed his behaviour when he brought Annie and Clarabel to the platform. "You met the half-engine, didn't you?" Gordon paused for a moment. I don't know what I heard, but I hope it wasn't a ghostly spirit." Thomas was now very worried. So was the Fat Controller. The rumours of these ghost encounters were spreading around the island. Thomas had decided that something needed to be done, and there was someone on the island who might know more about the half-engine.